All right. The Cuban Missile Crisis. 13-day political and military standoff between the Soviet Union and the U.S. in October 1962 about Soviets sending nuclear warheads to Cuba. This started due to Fidel Castro aligning himself with the Soviet Union during this time. A naval blockade was created to stop the shipment of nuclear arms to the Caribbean island. Florida during the Cold War. Many refugees came to Florida from Cuba during the Cold War. Not to mention, the Bay of Pigs was being organized in Florida due to it being extremely close to the Caribbean island. Post-World War II prosperity. Due to the desire for consumer goods and money to spend, the economy boomed. The Cold War afterwards keeps unemployment down and money in people's pockets because of the defense spending. GI Bill of Rights. This pays for the education of military troops coming back from the war. It also guarantees them a whole year of unemployment benefits and low-interest loans. Baby boomers. A generation born within World War II due to prosperity and the soldiers coming back from the war who wanted families. This generation was born from 1946 to 1964. Interstate highway system. This was composed by Dwight D. Eisenhower, a network of controlled access highways that form a part of the National Highway System. The full name is the Dwight D. Eisenhower National System of Interstate and Defense Highways. Limits to post-World War II prosperity. Minorities started to find it was hard to prosper during this time. African Americans were still tenant farmers and had low-wage jobs. Hispanics were migrant farmers. Only white middle class prospered from the sudden change after World War II. Great Society. Composed by President Johnson, the Great Society brought many programs like Medicare and Medicaid. Not only did it create those, it also created the Office of Economic Opportunities. It also put together the Immigration Act that ended all immigration quotas. The Voters' Rights Act banned all literacy tests and other discriminatory methods that denied anyone of voting. Vietnam War. The Geneva Conference split Vietnam in half, which housed communists on one end and the Vietnamese emperor on the other. The U.S. joined the fight due to the increasing fear of communism spreading. They helped the Vietnamese emperor tried to push back the communist forces in Vietnam. At first, the U.S. citizens were in full favor of going into Vietnam and helping suppress communism, but it was soon replaced by contempt and regret when they saw the images and war on TV. Domino theory. The domino theory was a concept that was conceived during the time of the Cold War and Vietnam War. The concept was that if one country fell to communism, then all would fall, and it would spread like wildfire around the world.
The Southeast Asian Treaty Organization was an international organization for collective defense in Southeast Asia. It was created to block further communist gain in Southeast Asia. They felt obligated to help South Vietnam stay unaffected by communist rule. In the Gulf of Tonkin incident, North Vietnamese torpedoes supposedly attacked the USS Maddox, which was in the Gulf of Tonkin. It killed over 50,000 U.S. military personnel and 2 million Vietnamese citizens. Tet Offensive was one of the largest military campaigns of the Vietnam War. It was a series of surprise attacks by the Viet Cong. It was on cities, towns, and hamlets throughout South Vietnam. This made U.S. citizens worry of the war and its effects. This led to people starting to become critical of the war. Vietnamization was a U.S. policy during the Vietnam War of giving the South Vietnamese government responsibility for carrying on the war, so to allow withdrawal of American troops. The Paris Peace Accords. The Paris Peace Accords were an agreement between the government of the Domestic Republic of Vietnam, the Provisional Revolutionary Government of the Republic of South Vietnam, the Republic of Vietnam, and the United States to bring an end to the war. Discontent at home during the Vietnam War was the most controversial war and dishonorable war in history. People did not like this war because this was when the draft was created. Some people, however, attempted to find a way around the draft. The Watergate scandal was in 1972 when President Nixon made a plan to break into the Democratic National Committee headquarters to spy on the Democrats. 5 men were arrested, and it ended up with Nixon giving up his presidency. The Equal Right Amendment. The Equal Right Amendment was to provide equality of the sexes and prohibit discrimination between the sexes. It was approved in 1972. Women in the Workforce was a movement where women tried to be equal to men because they felt they deserved the same amount of pay as men. The National Urban League is a non-partisan civil rights organization that advocates on behalf of African Americans against racial discrimination in the United States.